Namaskar, everybody. Welcome on the day of the coronation of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. And this is a day that we all celebrate because we believe that a person's acts are much more important than this date of birth. So, since we're talking of Bengal, I'll begin with a poem that not many people know of. It has been shared to me by an important person. So, that will show you how the Bengal felt. It's a poem written by Rabindranath Tagore. It's a long poem. I'll just recite a few lines. A few distant centuries ago, on a nondescript day, I can barely imagine upon what craggy hilltop, within a dense, sunless forest, O sovereign Shivaji, lightning like across your forehead, there flashed the thought from above. With a singular religious thread, this torn up fragmented Bharata I shall bind in one. This Bengal that day had not awakened, startled from stupor, had not received the tidings, had not rushed outside her courtyards, had not resonated then with the sound of the Shankha, quietly spreading everywhere her chaste, unblemished, verdant shawl upon the earth. She held at dusk hundreds of her children in the hamlets. And then he says, the message arrived upon scroll, and yet the thunderous proclamation of Maratha, Bengal heard not, hence knew not its intent. And outside the skies was rendered. I am just taking some parts because of the lack of time. Outside the skies rendered by the howls of carrion eating jackals, the glory of the Mughals was laid to rest upon the burning ghat. Nothing remained but scattered margins of ashes and ruins. Then upon a corner of Bengal marketplace of goods in silent steps, the Lakshmi of commerce through the passageways of a dark tunnel ushered in an alien throne with the scared Gondoka Bengal quietly anointed the new arrival. And coming to what he felt about Shivaji, the mocking annals of the invaders brand you as bandit. As they break into raucous laughter, all your noble efforts, nothing more than a robber's failed work. What all we have since known, ye false tale spinners, cease your garrulous speeches. O ignominious muse of the lies, know that the true verdict of the destiny shall override the falsehood today, and the truth declare victory. That which is deathless, how can it ever be smothered? By your words of scorn, the sadhana steeped in truth, nothing shall stand in the way. This I know for sure. O royal Saman, those soaring, ununifying thoughts of yours in the storehouse of fate are preserved forever. Could the hands of time ever purloin the minute speck of it? The sacrifice of yours is the shrine of your motherland, that resolute sadhana for the truth. Who have known these became from thence till the end of time Bharata's inheritance. So this is something that we wonderfully written by Rabindranath Tagore. He says to Bengal's courtyard, where from sounds of booming trumpet of your resounding victory, ripping apart the gloom-laden fabric of the deepest darkness, accumulated over well-nigh 3 centuries, the incandescent star of your valiance is risen today, sending the shaft of radiant light to the eastern horizon. Nay, the truth never dies beneath the oblivion of the 100 centuries. He goes on. So just imagine the Rashtrakavi, the Nobel Prize laureate, had these feelings for Shivaji. What had he done? Shivaji, the fate of Shivaji is not the size of the Samrajya he created. He brought upon himself the title of Chhatrapati because he wanted Hindus to have that sense of pride about themselves, about their race, about their country. He rose when the nation was in the darkest period at the zenith of Aurangzeb's time. And he was the son of a mother, Jija Mata, whose father was serving a Muslim king. But she had trained him so well, the sanskaras he gave to that young boy made the boy at the age of 16 to take an oath that he will create a Hindavi Swaraj. He said, it is the Lord's order that Hindavi Swaraj shall be created. At the age of 16 itself, he won the first fort. That is the greatness of Shivaji, that in the darkness when everybody had given up every hope, this young boy decided that we shall have a Hindavi Swaraj. And from that on, till 50 years of his life, he ceaselessly worked and worked like nobody had ever worked, untiring. A heroic battle with the unknown forces. And A person like Aurangzeb, who had sent continuously for 19 years best of commanders. They were Afghans, they were Turks, they were Mughals, they were Rajputs, every kind of person he threw at him for 19 years. Swaraj, as the Samrajya, the state of Shivaji went on increasing. So this power of his to resist any kind of attack made, when he died, Aurangzeb said, here was a man who was worthy of to be my opponent. So that respect he gained was because of his mammoth task of taming Aurangzeb and creating a small state that finally resulted, after 80 years of his death, as the biggest empire of the time till Panipat, the battle 3. So that was his greatness, that even the way he created an entire structure and he inspired people. After 2 generations, Marathas are able to rule, as they say, from Cuttack to Attock. So from northeast frontiers to the eastern frontiers to south. The Tanjavur temple has still records of Maratha kingdoms who rebuilt the temple. Similar are the ways, and for people in Bengal, at least I was surprised. There is a famous name of Maratha ditch, which is still known as Ditch Lane. The people who are afraid of Shivaji, they built a ditch 3 mile long to save themselves from the continuous attack of the revenue collector of Shivaji, whose name was Raghuji Bhosle, who raided Bengal 3 times, 6 times. And he was supported by Bhaskar Ramesh Bhatkar Panditji, as he was called. So this Bhaskar Pandit and Bhosle, they continuously raided Bengal, and finally these people approached East India Company. They dug a ditch. That was the power of Shivaji and his what legion he left behind. Come to think of it, in 50 years, he had 260 forts. He built 110 forts. And in one of the forts, an expert says it required 3.5 lakh tons of stones. And all the forts in Maharashtra are built on steep hills. The entire Sahyadri range is steep hill, and it's not easy to ride them. And these are the forts that he created. So when you create a fort, you create entire employment cycle. You have to create your manpower. You have to recruit people, police, infrastructure, everything. So in that, what did he do? He got his villages around that area to be loyal to him. They supplied the materials. He had people selected, trained. Not only trained, how strong was the training? That people who worked for him, none of them ever betrayed him. That is the kind of loyalty he built. And how did he build the loyalty? He took care of them in the best possible way. He visited them personally. He was a leader. If anybody died, he would go to the home and see to it that the family gets best possible support. The family got best type of emotional support. So this effort of his to create a band of loyal soldiers who were totally loyal to the Swarajya, he created a big vision. He created a vision of Hindu Pada Padshahi, and he said, this Sindhavi Swaraj is something that will make the world go to the Swarajya. So that grand vision is what kept on making him himself work and let others work. So tirelessly, he created a band of workers who did everything possible, played with their lives because the king was there. And how's the king? He led from the front. He did not sit back and say, okay, you can go and fight. When he was caught in Agra, he was arrested, imprisoned there. When his plan of escape was taking shape, he did not escape first. First, he got his trusted people, all the people who were with him, to go one by one, and he left last. That is the strength of a king, that he's so careful about his people that he takes risk. But first, he wants his people to be safe. So that is the kind of work he did. He was an uncompromising man. He was so uncompromising that he punished even his best subedars, his best people when required, with the cruelest of punishments. Once the evidence was given, he would not flinch in giving justice. And his strategies were such that people always wondered what he's going to do next. Whether he's going to come overnight, whether he's going to step back, from where is he coming, no idea at all. Some people are so afraid. The Mughals thought he's present in 3-4 places one time. And he would be able to attack. His guerrilla warfare, of course, is a legend, everybody agrees. But he would also turn alliances with people who are his enemies. Depending on the requirement, he would have alliances. He would have guerrilla attacks. He would step back. He would give over the force if required and again win them over. So this continuous strategizing is something which he kept on learning, kept on fighting all his life. But finally, the empire kept on increasing, and he had more and more people joining him. He reconverted Tanaji. He reconverted. Uh, Sorry, I forgot the name. So he reconverted Netaji Palkar. He had become a Muslim when he was in Agra during imprisonment. He called him back. He reconverted. He gave respect back to him. Another commander civilly converted. So nothing was taboo for him. Whatever required to be done for the Swarajya, he did everything possible for the Swarajya. That is how he rose to that height. And his way of dealing with the people, like Guru Ramdas says in his shlokas, that you deal with the person the ways, gently with a gentle person, cruelly with a cruel person, immoral person, you behave in the way that suits that person. So you have to deal with the enemy in the way the other person deals. This lesson is all through used by Shivaji in his life. And how was his communication? He may be one of the rarest of rare kings whose communication passed from the top to the bottom as it is. What he thought was exactly the way his lowest cadre, the man on the fighting field, would understand this is what Raja Shivaji wants. So this clarity of communication is again something that is a worthy lesson for every leader that you see today. And he could delegate power to the authority to the person, because the way he received trust from the people, the way he created trust for the people, he would pass on the right kind of delegation of power. Then he would allow the person to do what he wanted to do. So this strength of not just doing something but getting work done, again a sign of very big leaders, that it is possible to do work yourself, but how much can you do? So the way he could get others to get work done, again, is a sign of great leadership. And the entire idea ran around a grand vision that you are looking at a Hindavi Swaraj, which is going to defeat all the enemy forces, which is something to which the world will respect. British respected him because the way he created the forts in the sea, the way he fought off the armies of British is something the British also surprised. When he attacked Surat, they were surprised. The Mughals were surprised. Every move of his was a surprise for people. And it's just one part of it, his administration. At that time, Farsi was the main language. He got scholars to coin new words in Marathi. So 1400s of administration were created by the scholars, and that is the language that Shivaji used. So he not only did create a Swarajya, Hindavi Swarajya for the people, but he also revived a language which was going to die under the weight of Farsi. And for this, he had every kind of scholar that was required. He founded something. He founded an empire which looks small, but his ideas, his entire approach, his futuristic view of getting people on job is something that finally resulted in a Maratha empire, as I said in the beginning, which rose to its pinnacle all those 70s, 80 years. And Aurangzeb, after Shivaji's death, it's funny that Aurangzeb never himself came to South when Shivaji was alive. Shivaji died in 1680, and Aurangzeb came to Deccan in 1681. He was there for 25 years, but he could not subdue Maratha Empire. In fact, Maratha Empire kept on increasing. It kept on expanding. As I said, from Attak to Cuttack, the kind of empire he made. In fact, in Bengal, he reached his forces, the Maratha forces reached up to Midnapur. So this entire Samarajya was made by vision of a person who started with no resources. He had no money. He had no army. He created army out of normal farmers. He created army out of commanders, out of fishermen. Bhandari was the one who created Janjira Fort and took care of the forts there in the sea. So this great ability to create those extraordinary people, the fighting fit people, from very, very ordinary people on the ground, is something that is a lesson for every general, for every human being, every leader. So it's not that you require, there is something called martial race. Guru Gobind Singh raised a race out of people who are farmers basically. So the entire Khalsa movement, the entire powerful Khalsa martial, as we call them, was creation of Guru Gobind Singh. Similarly, Shivaji created an entire martial force out of ordinary people, then which became a Maratha martial community. So that's the greatness of leaders who leave behind a legacy which continues after they go. And that is where India understands what Shivaji was. And the strength of Shivaji lies in creating a small speck of positivity, that small spark of a self-pride that finally saw Mughals crumble. As we know, that by the time Maratha Empire rose to the pinnacle, Mughals were finished. They actually lost, Marathas lost Panipat actually to finally to British, and they took over from Calcutta. They came. So this entire life of Shivaji, that a kind of nation he wanted to create, was created, and that is when the downfall of invaders started. And unfortunately, we could not keep up the pace. But he created an entirely new narrative for the nation. That is important to Shivaji. That is why we consider Shivaji to be the most important general, the most important king in annals of history. As Rabindranath Tagore noted, that you could insult him, you could insult his memory, but history remembers. So we also remember him on this wonderful day of his coronation. And how was the society? Just remembered off the hand. He was refused to be coronated by the local pandits. They said, "You are not a Rajput, you are not a Kshatriya." This stupidity of our caste system, of our own society, was again taken care of by Shivaji when he called Gaga from Kashi, who coronated him as a king. So, as we said in earlier part of our Hinduism, when Shri Krishna spoke about it, when Vedas spoke about it, that your karma decides your caste. Your varna, caste is not a Hindu word. So varna, the way you behave, the way you work, your skills decide your varna. So Shivaji was truly a Kshatriya, and he recreated the spark of Kshatriya back into Hindus. For that, he needed a leader like Guru, like Ramdas, who created the Kshatriya Dharma, that spirit of fighting in the mind of the Hindus, and that is how we rose again. On the day of Shivaji's coronation, that is Hindu Samrajya Dinotsav as we call it, Ritam Bangla is going to have at least 4 lectures and a lot of articles about Shivaji and his life and times. I'm sure you will enjoy those, the information that is not generally available. So welcome to Ritam Bangla and have a look. Thank you.